Hello, my name is Mark Ko, and I'm a third-year student at UF. Today I will be covering a special population, Asian Americans between the ages of 18 to 24, otherwise known as those attending a university. Specifically, I will be covering mental health within this population. This topic holds a dear place in my heart, as this is something that affects my peers and something I have personally seen affect those really close to me. Before I get into my special population, I think it is important to discuss what mental health is. Mental health is a serious concern within society that has thankfully started to gain notice. Stigmas are starting to be broken down and people are beginning to have conversations about it. However, what exactly is mental health? Mental health is defined as a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. Mental health illnesses arise when one or both of those mental states are in turmoil, or there is a change in thinking that is detrimental to their health. Mental health illnesses have seen a rise within the past couple decades, mostly due to awareness. More and more people are beginning to see the signs within others and themselves, and more people are starting to seek help. However, I believe that trend is not as commonly seen within my population. Identity is a huge factor of someone's mental health, and that feeling of belonging in a community is often what makes up their identity. Sometimes that feeling of belonging is lost, especially within my special population because there is a small number of Asian Americans in the US. Asian Americans make a tiny portion of this country's population, only 5% of the 300 million people in the US. For me personally, I never really felt like I belonged in a community until I came to college and met so many people my age and those with a similar background as me. That sense of belonging to a group, whether it be a certain ethnicity or people with the same beliefs, is huge in making up an identity that is strong and promotes good mental health. It has been found that the impact of racial identity and/or ethnic identity is huge. Those who started out with lower numbers of the same ethnic group were seen to have higher levels of stress as time went on, especially as race-related stress increased. When those tensions and stresses arise, it's essential to have a community that one can fall back to and rely on. Without that sense of belonging, the stress starts to build up and can oftentimes be overwhelming. Asian American culture also plays a big role in forming the identity within Asian Americans and in promoting good mental health. Nearly all Asian ethnicities have a negative preconception of mental health and mental health services. It is believed within most Asian cultures that to deal with mental health, all you need to do is power through it, that it's possible to beat it with your own willpower, and that you should be able to handle it on your own. Within Asian American culture, there are huge stigmas with mental health. Oftentimes, if one admits to having a mental health illness, they are told to suck it up or shunned for being vulnerable. This idea of mental illness is carried over into the next generations and acculturated into those generations. Studies have also found that most acculturated Asian Americans find that mental health services aren't sufficient enough. So even if they overcome the cultural barriers surrounding mental health, they come across barriers out of their control. There arises language barriers and cultural misunderstandings that all lead to Asian Americans affirming their belief that mental health services are inadequate, and most of the time, they unfortunately are. Asian Americans within this age group also come to learn very different coping mechanisms, especially compared to other ethnic groups. It has been found that anger suppression along with any emotional suppression can lead to more negative psychological issues. At the same time, it is common within Asian American culture to suppress feelings of anger and sadness so that others aren't burdened, and this buildup of emotions has been found to have hugely negative consequences on one's mental health. That suppression stresses the mind and leads to depressive states. When the coping mechanism of your culture is something that only leads one to a depressive state where you feel you cannot confront anyone about your problems, it becomes a huge problem that is often difficult to solve. The only feasible way of helping individuals with mental health issues is to get them to open up and talk about their problems and emotions individually. Teaching the public about healthy coping mechanisms that can be employed for one's mental health is also a great way of changing the mindsets of everyone in general. Creating a safe environment where everyone can feel safe and open to share is the only way I feel that society can slowly start to overcome cultural and ethnic barriers regarding mental health. If we all are just open to sharing and talking about it, we can bring about drastic change. In conclusion, Asian Americans within the university setting, those between 18 to 24, have a unique need in regards to their mental health. Our culture is not one that is conducive to creating healthy mental health habits, but that doesn't mean it is hopeless. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but by making more people aware and creating safe spaces, I believe it is possible to help those who truly need it. Even though this may be a tiny fraction of the US population, it's something that I am personally going through and something I see developing and occurring within close friends of my own. So it is something that I really want to see change for the better. Now on to the discussion questions. Why do you believe it is so difficult for immigrants of all other ethnicities to adjust mentally to life in other countries? Is it just the stress of a new environment or something else? What are some ways we as a country can change the stigmas and perception of mental health that we already aren't doing?